Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Well Life Wednesday. I'm your host, Irish, your licensed clinical addiction specialist associate. I'm so glad you're here with me on today. Wherever you are, whether you're driving at home or taking a break, I want you to just take a second, settle in, and give yourself permission to be present for this conversation on today. Because today we're going to be talking about something so real. We're talking about emotional, immature parents. Now, before we dive in, I want to say this up front. This is not about blaming your parents or tearing them down. This is about understanding your experience so you can heal, grow, and move differently. Okay? Because a lot of us grew up thinking that um, something was wrong with us when really we were responding to the environments that didn't feel supported emotionally. So let's start here. What does it actually mean to have emotional, immature parent? It's not always obvious to see, but sometimes we know that parents provided for us, whether it was for just having a roof over our head, food, having moments of love and laughter, that's all good. But still, with that, something was missing. Emotional immature parents often struggle with things like managing their own emotions, being consistent, showing empathy, and taking accountability. And instead of being the safe, steady space that you required or needed, things may have felt um, confusing, unpredictable, and sometimes even overwhelmed. And as a child, you didn't know how to analyze those situations. You just begin to figure things out. You pretty much adapt to your surroundings. Maybe you became the strong one, the one who didn't cry, the one who handled things all alone, the one people say, "You're so mature for your age." Now, how many times have we heard that either being around family members or being with friends or just even associates? Maybe you was around them with their children and they said, "Boy, your child should mature for that age." But we don't know what that child has experienced or what they went through in their home, what their background was. We don't know if they came from pe- parents struggling with alcoholism, drug use, gambling, physical abuse. We don't know. Sometimes children have to grow up pretty fast and they may seem mature for their age. Sometimes children that may have other siblings, the oldest child may have to take on the role of being that parent for the other siblings, especially if they're dealing with parents that's on drugs or alcohol or gambling. They don't know where their next meal coming from because they either spent the money on drugs or gambling. So they had to fend for themselves, or they wasn't even present in the home. And then there's the peacekeeper, always trying to keep things calm, reading the room, avoiding conflict at all costs. Just I have heard so many times when working with the youth, when I was working in a group home, hearing some of their stories from being raised in a home where they pretty much avoid conflict. They didn't know what type of day they was going to have, so they didn't want to make any of the parents upset. They didn't know if they was going to get physically abused or food going to be um, a punishment for them not being able to eat that day. So you, like I said, you don't know what children experience at an early age. Then there's some that's the caretaker. Some children have to be the caretaker. They listen to the parents' problems, supporting them emotionally, being there for them in ways that they should have been there for you. So the child almost become an adult quick, or a friend, because they hearing all the problems that the parent has. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't have the money to pay this bill. I don't have this. I don't have that. Or this is going on at work, or this going on in my relationship. If it's a single parent home, or even in the marriage, they may tell you what's going on in the marriage. No child should have to deal with those type of issues. They're supposed to be a child. They're supposed to be trying to figure out if the neighbors' children next door, they're going to be able to play with them, or what they're going to do at school tomorrow with their friends. But no, some kids, like I said, have to grow up fast and worry about some of these adult problems. And then there's some that just pretty much just shut down. They feel like they don't need anything. They don't need to ask for anything because it's safer if they just be quiet. When you have kids that's scared to even talk to their parents because they know if they say something, often children have heard your just hearing your voice irritate me, just your presence irritate me. So they pretty much try to avoid anything that's not going to cause any, let us say, conflict. They want to be able to remain safe in the home. Some of them just want to get a good night's rest because so much go on in the home, they're not getting adequate amount of sleep. No child should have to deal with that. So what I've just stated, just went over, those weren't personal traits, not personal traits at all. Those were survival strategies that we pretty much just discussed. That child learned how to survive. That's what it just sounded like, being the peacekeeper, being the person that had to listen to their parents' problem, shutting down, being the caretaker. Like I said, they was learning how to survive in an environment that was not emotionally or physically probably suitable for them. So let's talk about some common patterns that you might recognize. There is the emotional unavailable parent. This is the parent who avoids feelings, they avoid conversations. So if you're upset, you might hear things like, you'll be fine. It's not that serious. So as parents, we had to get to the point, if our children are still willing to come to us and share something with us, whether you feel like it's uh, not important, it might be important to your child. And if they're willing to share something they're experiencing, that's great. A lot of children now don't want to tell their parents nothing. But if you still got your child coming and willing to share with them, do not shrug them off with a simple thing and you're fine. It ain't that serious. Might not be that serious to you, but it's something that's concerning them. Let's take time to listen. And especially this day and time, if your child is in school, it's different now. So much bullying. There's issues going on in school. There's issues on the bus. There's issues at the after school program. And if they stand with a family member or a friend, there could be issues there. So if they're willing to come to you and share anything, let's take the time out and listen. Please. And then there's the self-centered parent. everything somehow becomes about them, their stress, their feelings, their needs, and you learning that pretty much if it's all about them, there's no space for you. There's no space for the child. There are some self-centered parents out there now. The focus is on them. So where do everybody else fit in there? That's why I said we got to go back to uh, listening to one another, not just one-sided. Can't be self-centered. There's other people in the family. Let's hear from somebody else. Then there's the reactive parent. That's the one with the unpredictable moods. They may be angry. They may be withdrawn. And you constantly trying to figure out what version of them you're getting today. You got to look at their body language. Got to see how they come in the house. Did they slam the door? Did they speak when they came in? We don't know what version we get. So now at this point, you got a child that's uncomfortable. They pretty much look your way because they don't know what they're getting. Sometimes we have to, even if we have a bad day, sometimes we have to check our feelings at the door and be present at home. And then once everybody's settled, everybody gone to bed, or we done had dinner, I've been present with the family, I might take myself outside if there's a back porch, front porch, anything, and just take that time to wind down and let all that go. We have to do that sometimes, parents. I know it may be frustrating, but we can't come in the house with all that. Let's be present at home and then come in the house, be present. Like I said, and after everybody's wound down, we done had our family time, then let me go take some time for myself. That way I can let go of that day I had. They don't have to see and know everything, the children. Or try to release it on your ride home. Do something. Well, these unpredictable moves, boy, they take you through. And then the last one, there's the role reversal parent, where you become the emotional support system. You're the listener, the fixer, and you're holding everything together. What child needs to be doing that? The roles have reversed. And we wonder sometimes, like I said, the kids had to grow so fast. You be like, oh, they here before they time. They got an old soul. Yeah, they had to mature early. They took care of the parent. They had to be the emotional support system, the listen, the fixer, and hold the family together. And sometimes we get to the place where some of the 15 to 16-year-olds, when they're able to work, we got them out there trying to do more as if they in their 20s and their 30s. I know that they only letting you work these a couple hours, but on the weekend you're gonna be able to do a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with getting the kids out there learning how to work, getting their feet wet. But don't you take the back seat, and then they pretty much the parent and you the child, you at home playing the video game, but they outside working. They at McDonald's, the grocery store, the car wash, and you been home all day. The roles have reversed. What we doing? And if you're sitting here thinking, yeah, I have experienced some of these things, I want it to be clear that it was not your fault. Because sometimes, you, I've said this before in another episode, you have parents, there's no book to being a parent, but also sometimes your parent, what their experience with their parents has carried over and to what you have encountered. Your parent lacked something. They didn't get something that they needed, so they couldn't provide it to you. But we find a lot of children holding it over the parents' head. And a lot of times it's like a generational thing. It has been gone through 5 generations and it's still not correct, even with you being present. And you have to make up in your mind, if you don't already have kids or planning to have kids, let this be the turning point for you. Don't let this carry over into your family that you're trying to build. It has to stop here. That's why this podcast is here. We're trying to heal and grow together and have that balanced life. I know there was a void there for you, but you cannot take that into your next. You cannot hold that over your parents' head. It could be even affecting your relationship with your parents or even the whole family dynamics because everybody is feeling some type of way because they felt this voidness of something they did not receive from their parents. And like I said, and most of the time they didn't get it. They have some history, some past things they probably didn't deal with, and it carried over. But I want to say again, it's not your fault. But guess what? Here's where it showed up. I think I just tapped into it because those childhood those childhood patterns, they don't disappear. They follow you into adulthood, like I said, because we carrying over. We didn't deal with it. You might struggle with boundaries, and we, like I said, we had to get to the place where setting boundaries is okay. It's not uncomfortable for you. Saying no may feel wrong, maybe feel uncomfortable, but it's okay. You setting a boundary. You might feel responsible for other people's emotions, like it's your job to fix things or make people feel okay. That is not our job. That becomes you being a people pleaser. And when you begin to be a people pleaser, you're always giving, you're always showing up, you're always overstanding yourself, and then you become exhausted. You're giving, but getting nothing in return. You're giving to the point where you just empty, you just blah. That's why we got to learn how to set those boundaries. You got to begin to say no. I'm not able to do that, and start focusing on you. You're needing something. You're giving out things that you actually need for yourself. It goes back to us always want to do for others and we neglect ourselves. I always say, I have to worry about me before I can even think about trying to help someone else. I got to do the work on the inside. I want to be a better person so I can help someone else. And one of the biggest things you might not even know what you need. And that's because it wasn't taught to you to check in on yourself. We wasn't taught that to do a self check in. That's what pretty much what I was just saying. We got to learn how to deal with us first. Where is the emptiness and void that I feel on the inside? Have I dealt with that? And like I said, that's what this podcast is about. We just want to become a better person, have a well life all the way around. And that's wholeness. Oftentimes, when we deal with all these things, we find ourselves in relationships that are familiar. They're not healthy, but they're familiar. If I'm so used to chaos and drama, sometimes you find yourself clinging to that because it's almost feel like the norm to you. If that's what you've been seeing all your life is unbalanced chaos, drama, and so now you're beginning to bring that into your adulthood. Like your friendships has been like total chaos, toxic, haven't been healthy. It's been one sided give, and you always doing, and nobody's doing anything in return from you. We doing things that are pretty much familiar to us. What's comfortable? So emotional, unavailable partners, one sided relationship, situations where you're giving more than you're receiving, and it's not because that's what you want. It's because that's what your nervous system recognizes as normal. Pretty much what I just stated. We have to change that. And we change that by setting those boundaries. And if we set those boundaries, then that familiarity wouldn't want to be present if we start setting those boundaries. Because then we begin to become comfortable with saying no and not allowing certain things to come in our lives. But here's the shift. Awareness changes everything, and it does. Once you can see the pattern, you don't have to stay in it. No, you don't. So once you acknowledge it, take the move, take the first step by acknowledging, being aware. And then the next step is what do you want to do to change that? And so when we're ready to change things, that's when the healing process begins. So let's talk about healing. And what does that actually look like? And that's a good question. Again, first, awareness, being able to name your experience, to say, this is what I went through. So you acknowledge, I've gone through this, I experienced that. Because when you name it, it separates yourself from it. So when you name it, you slowly taking that grip away. That grip that it has on you, it's loosening up once you name it. You loosen up that hold it has. You're not just a strong one. You are not just a caretaker. You are a whole person. So stop allowing people to make you. This is what all they you can be to them is their caretaker, the strong one, the listening ear, the person that's always gonna be there no matter what. They know they pretty know what they have in you. You're a whole person. Second, validating your emotions. That is huge. If you uh was feeling dismissed growing up, you may have learned to dismiss it too. You must learn how to dismiss it too. Stop. If you felt like that growing up, you can't let that carry over. Like I said, you're going to have to dismiss it. Learn how to push that away. You need to learn how to move forward and heal from that because you are seen. We see you. You have to set yourself around like-minded people that sees your worth, not people that's trying to destroy it, take it away, or want you to suppress who you are. You need to know what healing looks like, and that's healing when you're not allowing things to uh, deter you, hold you back. You're not staying in one place. You're willing to move forward. This is something you want to do. Healing looks like asking yourself, what am I feeling like right now? And allowing that to be okay. So if I say I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm upset, it's okay. It is okay to have those feelings. When we get in trouble at, we want to sit in those feelings and allow them to overtake us to where we cannot move, that we're stuck. We're stuck. These feelings are here on there for a reason. Of course, we're going to feel upset sometimes. Of course, we're going to get frustrated. Of course, we're going to feel sad. We're even going to feel depression. We're even going to feel some type of anxiety sometime in our life. We're going to experience something, happiness, joy, and all these are emotions. We're going to feel. We're going to experience those emotions. But the ones that cause you to, like depression and fear and uh, sadness, even grief, these emotions can put you at a like a halt. It just sometimes they can be so overwhelming to that you're stuck in that place longer than you need to be. And that's what we don't want. We want you to learn how to maneuver through those emotions with um, positive coping skills, strategies to work through those, learning those things. If I know that when I'm sad, I know I can't sit in my room or sit in the dark or not separate myself, isolate myself from everyone. I need to find something that I enjoy, be around people that brings me peace, joy, and happiness to where I can change that emotion to where I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling a little bit lighter now. I'm happy. I'm laughing. That's changing the narrative. You know, so it's okay to feel those things, but we have to know how to move past it, not to sit in it. And the next thing says you don't need permission to feel your emotions. You don't. Just feel. Just go ahead and feel it. Like I said, learn how to move past it. Okay. The third thing is boundaries again. Yes, we know boundaries can feel uncomfortable, but especially if you spent your whole life putting others first, it's going to be difficult for you, going to be a challenge. But boundaries are not about pushing people away. Let's say that again. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. And that's oftentimes where we get stuck at. People think boundaries is just shutting off people. No, boundaries are put in place to learn how to, it's a protection. Let's put it that way. I can set the boundary. I can set the boundary to let people know, no, you can't come through right here. I set that there. I'm not going to allow this in. That's what boundaries are. It's not cutting off. It's just saying, no, you can't come in this way. I'm not going to allow that. And that's the only thing we're doing. We're protecting our peace. We shutting off. Uh, we shutting off things that's not going to bring for positivity. We setting that boundary of negativity, fear. We don't want you bringing that drama, all this craziness over here. We putting up that petition. They ain't saying you can't come, but you just can't come this way. I'm gonna allow you to come through my front door, but first I've got to check and see what you got going on first. We don't want you coming through no back doors. I want to see. I need to see you, and then if I need to know, now this not today. Maybe later on the week. I see now you're not right now. You protecting yourself. Okay, and you can start small by saying when you start to set boundaries. I'm not available for this conversation right now. I need some time to myself. I can't take this on today. These are clear and precise boundaries. Let me say it again. I'm not available for this conversation right now. I need some time to myself. I can't take that on today. Now, if anybody can't understand that, I don't know what to tell them. And it's okay if they feel a certain type of way because you have gave clear and precise boundaries. Now they get in their feelings, let them handle their feelings, but you just handle your boundary and your peace. You told them, you told them clear as day. There should be no issue with that. And yes, some people may not like it, especially if they're used to getting used to you not having boundaries. They're used to getting everything from you. They're used to you saying yes. But that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. If they get in their feelings or don't understand your boundary setting, it means you're doing something different. And yes, you are. That you are. You're doing something different for yourself to move forward. Okay? So let's talk about another part of healing, and this is grief. And we don't talk about this part enough. Let's talk about the grieving the parent you need. Grieving the parent that you needed, but you didn't have it. Grieving the emotional support that wasn't there. Grieving the moments in your childhood where you felt alone, misunderstood, and unseen. I know for whoever this is for out there, I know that had to be challenging. I know that had to be hard. Um, that you were grieving a parent that you needed and you didn't receive that, and not having the emotional support that you wanted, and feeling alone, misunderstood, and unseen. And a lot of times, if when you're talking to the youth now, and even when I was working in the group home setting, you find that a lot of them will say that their parent wasn't present. Um, they felt alone, misunderstood, and unseen. And we had to get back to the point, as I said earlier, we had to start back being present in the home, knowing what's going on with our children. The simple things about even asking about their day or how they feeling, how they doing. Are we even asking that anymore? How you doing today? It's just hard to hear when the kids say they didn't feel love or seen, or they didn't have a present parent in their life. And I know there's situations where parents have to work. Even if you have a hectic work schedule, you don't work every day. If you off on Saturday or Sunday, it you're gonna have to set a time where you're present with the child, even if it's taking them to the park for an hour or sitting in the home, making a fun day at home. We have to show them something that they are loved, they're cared about, they're thought about. But to say They didn't have nobody. They didn't feel connected to nobody in the house because no one was there. Either grandma had to raise them or a nanny had to raise them. They didn't feel that connection. They didn't feel understood or didn't feel seen. That's a hard pill to swallow for a child. And yes, grief is real. Yes, it is. And allowing yourself to feel it is part of the healing process. And I know you probably saying, yeah, that was something I didn't want to feel, but it happened and you felt it. And now you're learning how to move past it, to be a better person, to start your healing and growth process and have that balanced life that you're wanting. And if there's one of the most powerful steps is reparenting yourself. This is where you become the safe space that you needed, the safe space you wanted. That's the void that you have been feeling. So now you have to learn to speak to yourself with kindness, take care of yourself emotionally, create structure into stability in your life, and rest without guilt. So create the safe space that you needed by speaking to yourself with kindness, taking care of your emotional needs, create a structure and stability in your life, and rest without guilt. You should do all those things without feeling guilty because this is what is needed to have healing and balance in your life. It's not about being perfect. It's not. It's about being intentional, being consistent in these things, and that's the only way it's going to happen if you have consistency in your life. So now let's talk about your parents in the present, because a lot of people are asking, "What do I do now?" And that is a great question. And the truth is, there's no one answer. Some people are choosing to be distant. Some people may maintain relationship with setting boundaries, and some people adjust their expectations. And this is what you do have to do. You still have to maintain um, relationships, but please set boundaries with people and setting an expectation. Your expectation is so true, because if you know when you go around certain people that's pretty much set in their ways, they might be 70 in their 80s, and ain't too much about to change with them. So if you know if uh, Uncle Billy Bob and Aunt Sue Ellen, if they act the same every time at family function, and just be cutting the food and always starting trouble, why are we setting the expectation and the next 3 months when you have another family function, they're not gonna start any trouble when they've been doing that ever since you've been little? You got to set. We have to set realistic expectations for ourselves. So when we set realistic expectations, pretty much you won't feel some type of way when things happen. I'm not gonna set the bar too high because I don't want to disappoint myself. I'm gonna be realistic. I know what's about to happen when I go around certain individuals. That's why boundary setting is so important. So if I don't feel like putting up with any foolery, I'm not going or I'm not. You got to learn how to handle people. Uh, what they say with the long wood hand spoon, and still be cordial and loving to everyone. But I don't have to put up with the nonsense. I already know what to expect. So let's set realistic expectations so we don't be in our feelings and frustrated and upset with stuff. And this is important. You may have to accept that your parents cannot meet certain emotional needs. Yeah, that's a biggie. So We have a lot of people still holding grudges and still holding on to when they was about 6, about what the parents had done, and your parents is old now, you still holding on to that. And we have to accept that they can't give you what you need emotionally now. We pretty much have to, you have to accept where they are. And I know that hurt and it was a void and that really took you through. But in order for you to get to the next stage, because you're really, that parent is going on with their life. They're actually living their life. They might be in their 70s, 80s, and now they living a good life. And you're still in your 40s and 50s, still hurting from the childhood 6-year-old. And now you have to make up in your mind, am I going to continue to do this? Because it's probably affecting your relationship even now, or it's going to affect your relationship further down the road. So if you have children, it may carry up. So you want to break that cycle now. Why you have them here? Just enjoy what the time that you have, and just realize they didn't have it to give. Because like I said, going back to what I said earlier, they their parents might didn't have it to give to them, so they didn't know how to give it to you. And sometimes that's what a lot of, if you look back at it, and if you hear any stories, stories, if you go down that line, talk to some of those older and wiser family members, they probably can tell you how it was when they was growing up. Oh, and then you realize, oh, they wasn't taught that. They didn't have that to give. So no wonder they didn't give it to me. But we started holding it on. It doesn't make it right, but it's kind of understanding why things were the way they were. And like I said, I know it's hard, but we got to free ourselves for some of this stuff, because it allows you to stop chasing something that you may never, it may never come, and start giving the care to yourself and receiving it, to so that you can have a healthy relationship. Again, freeing yourself from all that is going to allow you to stop chasing something that may never come, and start giving that care to yourself and receiving it for a healthy relationship. You're going to have to, because that's what you want, a healthy relationship. And it's never too late. I don't care how old that parent is or how old you are, it's never too late to just have a healthy relationship. So, as we wrap this up today, I want to speak directly to you. If you grew up in this kind of environment, you have been strong for a long time. You've carried a lot. You adapted in ways that help you survive, but you don't have to stay in survival mode anymore. You deserve to be heard, to be supported, to express yourself freely, to have relationships that feel safe and balanced. You're deserving of that. And healing. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments. Remember that. Healing happens in small moments. Every time you set a boundary, every time you honor your feelings, and every time you choose yourself. And that's what we want you to do, to choose yourself. But before I close, I want to leave you with a few questions that you can reflect on this week. What role did I play in growing up? What role did I play in growing up? How is it that that role is showing up in my life today? What do I need that I have been ignoring? What is one boundary I can start practicing this week? So I'm going to read it out to you again to practice this week. What role did I play in growing up? How has that role showed up in your life now? What do I need that I have been ignoring? And what is one boundary that you can start practicing this week? I want you to take your times on these reflection questions this week. There's no rush. Just take your time to sit there and think about it. Okay? Because we know that this podcast is here. We're on this journey together to heal, grow, and have balance in our life. So, again, thank you for spending your time with me on Well Life Wednesday. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it, or take it a moment to sit with yourself. And until next time, take care of your mind, your heart, and your well being. I'm Iris, your licensed clinical addiction specialist associate, and I'll see you next Wednesday, guys. Bye bye.